How human does your content sound? Have you been using AI to generate all of your content for your website, for your email marketing, for your social media? And does it actually sound like you? Or could it do with a little bit more of a human touch so it doesn't sound like your content is robotic? This is a problem a lot of online businesses are struggling with right now because maybe copywriting isn't your biggest skill set. Your biggest skill set is actually serving and delivering your clients or sending out your products to the people that have bought them. But actually, to get people into a position where they are ready to buy from you, your content, your copy needs to be able to take them on a journey to convert. And you do that through copywriting, and your copywriting skills are going to determine your sales, whether they're make or break. Now, thanks to AI, we have this tool that can support us with our copywriting. But what we risk with using AI to generate our copy is sounding the same in the sea of sameness. If you go onto LinkedIn right now, so many people sound like robots. They sound like they are just regurgitating the same information day in, day out between all of the different businesses online speaking about the same subject. And ultimately, what we need to remember as online business owners, people buy from people. So that is why in today's episode of the podcast, I am going to be talking about how to humanize your content with my guest, Belinda Weaver. Now, Belinda is a copywriting powerhouse. She is a mentor and a founder of the Copyright Matters. With over 15 years of experience working as a copywriter, Belinda has helped hundreds of creatives and business owners write content that doesn't just sound good, but it connects with people's ideal target audiences. And connects is such a key word here. And we go on to talk about this in today's episode, where we're talking about how you can connect without it feeling like you are sharing your entire life online. Belinda has created six-figure sales pages to personality-packed website copy, and her mission is to help humanize their content and sound more like themselves online, especially in the age where AI and ChatGPT are dominating the content space. She's also the creator of Confident Copywriting, which is a membership and coaching space for copywriters who want to build businesses that fit their life, not drain the life out of them. And if you've ever felt like your copywriting has to sound professional to be effective, or that you're not a natural writer, Belinda is here to flip that script. And we touch on the idea of professionalism and what it means in your content as for you as a business owner in today's episode. We're going to be diving into how to write content that feels really authentic, what it really takes to improve your copywriting skills, and how to use ChatGPT without sounding like a robot. This episode is for every freedom seeker who wants to build a more human brand through their copywriting. Today's episode I'm really excited about. I'm all about authenticity in my own content. And the way that I teach with my clients is from a really genuine, honest place. And I think the only way that they would then buy into me is if I produce content that sounds like me, because at the end of the day, they're buying into me, my energy, and me as the service. So I want to come across in a way that actually sounds like me in real life. And the good thing for you guys is if you ever wanted to work with me, you can hear me in this podcast. This is genuinely how I am. My podcasts are not particularly scripted. Yes, I have talked, but the way that I come across in this podcast, the way that I come across on LinkedIn, the way that I come across on my sales pages on my website for some programs like the Freedom Model Method Foundations, it's all written from a place of authenticity. It's all written from me. I do use ChatGPT to polish things up a little bit, but in today's episode, you're going to hear why Belinda is kind of against polishing and why we need to kind of keep those little bumps and inaccuracies in our content to make it sound more human. So we're going to dive into this episode. If you are thinking about starting a freedom-based business like Belinda did, she's going to tell us exactly why her copywriting has been able to create so much freedom in her life. If that's something that you're also desiring and you think copywriting could be a good business model for you to go down, you can check out my free Find Your Freedom Model Masterclass to sense check whether copywriting would be a good fit for you. And I will pop the link to that in today's show notes. Let's get into the episode. So you've been working as a copywriter for over 15 years. Tell me a little bit about you, your background, and how you first got into copywriting.
Yeah, so it sounds a long time when you say it like that, but every now and then I have to check in. But yeah, I've been a copywriter since 2010. And it was one of those career pivots we hear about more and more these days, where I'd started in IT out of university as a programmer. I was in the IT industry for 10 years. I looked at the marketing team and where they seem to be having a lot more fun than I am. And so I went back to school and did marketing. So that was my first career pivot. And it was in my marketing job that I found out about copywriting. And that was it was a life-changing moment for me because it meant it opened up the world of freelancing. It opened up the world of writing for work, which was my favorite part of my marketing job. And I've really been going on since there. So I've been writing for clients and then I switched to coaching copywriters to help them create businesses that they love to work in and that love them back. And I work with a lot of parents, not only parents, but I think there's a moment in our lives where we start making choices about our careers, and especially as women, we start going, what kind of career can I have if family and starting a family is also important? And can I have both? Do I need to choose? What are some viable career options? And so that's a choice we often have to make. And sometimes we find ourselves sacrificing our ambition to let life roll on in the way we want it to in other areas. So I love the fact that copywriting has allowed me to create a business I've had 2 kids. We've, traveled from Australia to England, moved back to Australia. We moved to the US. And just before we hit record, I was talking about how it's snowing here. And so my business allows me to be there for the kids because they're having a snow day. And I love that copywriting's made so much of that life possible for me. And it also lets me be a complete another word nerd when I'm writing for clients.
I love that it's given you a snow day. It's amazing.
Yes.
You're
It's
able
given
to
me a
take
snow
your
day.
snow day. Thank you to
Yeah.
your copywriting business, which is really
Yes.
cool. When we're talking about copywriting, obviously copywriting is quite a skill to be able to write copy that converts, to write copy that sounds like a human, to write copy that sounds like you as the person that's running your business. Did you, when you were growing up or in your early careers when you were back in the IT days, did you have those writing skills or was this something that you learned?
Absolutely something that I learned. And a lot of copywriters will have a story where they'll say, I was always writing stories in primary school, or I've always, had ideas and being creativity. And I think I've got a book in me. I have to admit, I am not that person. And if you scrolled back to me in even 2005 and said, you're going to be a writer, I would have laughed in your face because that hasn't been part of something that I've been super passionate about. So it's really interesting that when I found out about copywriting as a career, it was actually my favorite part of my marketing job because I also love the psychology of how we make decisions and which choices we make and how much we recognize ourselves in the marketing that's presented to us. That's what I really, really loved about marketing. And so when I found out that copywriting was really the embodiment of all of that work in marketing, that's what really excited me. And I was writing copy in my marketing job, but I didn't actually know it was a thing, which is bizarre. And so when I found out it was a thing that I could take a course for, that I could learn, I was absolutely obsessed. And so now when I'm coaching and teaching copywriters, I want them to be really clear on the fact that it's not a talent. You don't have this in your genes. You might have something that you love to do, and you might have something that helps you be a little bit better at it. But like anything, you can learn and improve. And it's often the copywriters who don't identify as gifted writers that can kind of do the best because they're the ones who keep learning and keep practicing and look at it as a skill that they can hone.
That's very interesting that it was something that you can learn because actually I would say I'm the opposite. I am a writer. I am quite a good writer and I always have been. Even as a kid, that was my skill set. But I kind of
Yeah.
pushed that down for most of my life. It wasn't really something that I thought about. It's only now that I have shifted content platforms to be the ones that work for me rather than the ones that I feel like I'm having to really work hard to be seen on. So when I was trying to be on Instagram, for example, I would struggle because I'm not a natural video content creator. I'm not a natural carousel or graphic designer. But then I switched over to LinkedIn and I am a writer. So my post reactions on LinkedIn are go crazy. Whereas if I post the same content on Instagram, but in like a video format, it just flops. So I think leaning into a skill set is really cool when it comes to content creation. But it's amazing to hear that you've been able to learn that at, in an adult life and be able to then make a business out of a skill that you've learned later. Because a lot of people build businesses around the skills that I guess they had already, or build careers out of skills or passions that they already had. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting to hear that you've learnt that skill. And what do you think is the key to learning that skill in terms of how to be a copywriter?
I think it's been open. The first realization is that you can have a talent, but it doesn't take you all the way. So you've got to be open to learning. Whenever you're learning something, you have to be open to the idea that it's going to be difficult to begin with and that it's going to get easier and that there's always more to learn. So, like, that's with anything. But I think when it comes to copywriting as well, learning about marketing and consumer behavior and the psychology, like I said, of like how we make decisions and how we respond to our environment, that's a huge part of copywriting. So we can learn which like wordy techniques, that's the technique of copywriting. We can learn how to put together words that move people forward in the way that we want to. But we also have to really tap into the humanity of the message because we're speaking to people. And so
Yeah.
we have to understand how people tick. And so that's why a lot of copywriters come to copywriting having, like me, having done other careers, having done a lot of other things, and maybe writing's been humming away in the background there. And all that life experience absolutely pays off because you're learning how to understand people.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. It's like I like
Mm,
what you said. When you start, you're probably not going to be that good at it, and it's a skill that you can learn. So you have to treat yourself as a beginner, and like
yeah,
beginners don't know everything, so you have to come in really open minded. So that's really a good place to start, I guess, is to come in with an open mind and say, I'm not going to be very good at this to start off with, but it's a skill that I can learn, and then I guess it just takes practice to make it perfect.
yeah.
And
And the
I
other
guess,
thing I was just going to say is that, usually when people find out about copywriting, and I'm the same, it lights a real fire in their belly. And so
mm,
it's just, you would know this, Sophie. To start your own business, it takes a lot of gumption and you need a lot of grit and perseverance and determination. And so
definitely.
you can learn the craft, but there's a lot of the head game and the mindset to go through the ups and downs of being a business owner where you're the one who's directing all the traffic.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when it's something like copy as well, which is generally what does direct the traffic, because ultimately most people are landing on a piece of content, they're landing on a website, and it's the content that you're creating for that website page that is going to then direct somebody's intent to buy, take them through to the checkout page. That is exactly how you're going to take someone on a journey through that
Yeah.
website. People get it really wrong. And or you can do an amazing job and like sell as many things as you possibly can, but a lot of people don't have this skill, and then that generally when they don't have this skill, that's when they're probably reverting to platforms like AI, ChatGPT to
Yeah.
support them with this writing skill that they don't have, and they probably don't have the time to learn because their business isn't copywriting. They might have got a completely different business model, but they need to have copy on their website or their content. So how are you feeling right now about AI and platforms like ChatGPT, Claude, that are in some ways taking away from copywriting businesses because people that can't afford to invest in a copywriter are probably using those platforms trying to get the same results,
Yeah.
arguably, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, the results.
Yeah.
But tell me first of all how you feel about that at the moment.
Well, I use AI quite a lot and I use it in a lot of different areas of my business. I was using it quite a bit for writing, but one of the keys is it's a tool and it's really shaken up the industry. That is absolutely true. But as someone who's been in business for 15 years, there's always something that comes along and shakes things up. Now, arguably AI is very big, but we have recessions and we have like currency. There's all sorts of economic and marketplace challenges that when you zoom out, we can see the ups and downs. So for me, this is just another challenge that we're faced with. that I know will get through. And I don't think AI will absolutely replace all copywriting. It is replacing, one of the challenges is it's replacing a lot of junior work.
Mm,
So copywriters used to do a lot of the work that now ChatGPT can do quite easily. So copywriters really have to think now more in terms of being strategists, because to use AI well, you need to know what to tell it. And you also need to know where it's going wrong. And that's where
mhm.
copywriters, I think of us a lot of the time in the writing process, like conductors to an orchestra. We need to know how to move things along, where to speed things up, how to slow things down. And that same strategic lens we need to apply to ChatGPT and other AI tools like Claude and Perplexity and stuff, to go, hang on, I can see where this is going wrong, and this is how you fix it. And unfortunately, many business owners who are leaning on AI, they don't have that skill set. However, many businesses who wouldn't necessarily invest in a copywriter, they would have written the copy themselves, or they would have got, their cousin's daughter or son who did a marketing course, they would have got them to write it. And so there's always a group of businesses who aren't going to invest in copywriting, and that's okay. And so our job as copywriters means that we have to clearly communicate the value we're bringing beyond typing words out, because ChatGPT can just type the words out and make it sound like pretty good. But when you don't have the right instructions and when you don't understand where it's going wrong, you're not able to harness the full potential of persuasive, conversion focused marketing. And that's the difference. You might be publishing something that's fine, but it's not all it can be. And to get it to that next level, you need someone with a strategic mind who understands the psychology of marketing and who can see where the copy needs to go.
I
That's the
agree.
next step.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of benefits, obviously, to having AI as your copywriting friend, but sometimes the content that it kicks out can be very generic. It's not personalized to you, your business, unless you fed it a lot of information
A
to be able to
lot.
get it in the exact tone of voice that you want to get it in. And that then risks you fading into the background and into the sea of multiple businesses saying the same thing that ChatGPT has regurgitated to all of you.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, now we see AI tells where we're clocking copy and content that has been written by AI. It's frustrating for copywriters because we're like, it's using really well known, proven writing structures because it's scraped it from all literature and marketing forever, but they're really valid and they work. And so it's frustrating to go, oh, now I have to kind of move away from some of these writing
But the truth is,
structures. Yes, or like the rule of 3 or the M dashes. But it is what it is, and we have to adapt and evolve. But it comes back to your point. How can we be human? Like how
humanize
can
it.
we communicate something a little different?
Yeah, something that I've noticed recently, actually, because yeah, we've started to become a bit more aware, right, of the regurgitation in the GPT phrases and how it structures its copy. Well, I would like to hope that most people have become a bit more aware of that at least. I can tell you that not everybody on LinkedIn has, but
No.
at the same time, I listen to a lot of podcasts from various different people, and what's been really interesting to me lately is that I'm picking up on ChatGPT language, but it doesn't feel like it's coming from AI. It feels like it's genuinely how these people speak. But it's like the reality is, the truth is, this is the hard truth quietly. So I'm
Yeah.
finding it really hard, like when I'm listening to the podcast, to be like, are they reading off of a ChatGPT script? Or is that genuinely how you would present it? And I think I'm trying to, like, in my own, if I'm doing a solo podcast episode or I'm creating my own piece of content, I'm going back to what you said, we're having to think about like ways to like not sound like AI. And I'm having to think about ways of like how not to phrase it like that, because I really have like a massive authenticity value in my business and I want everything to come across as if I've written it. And most of it I have written actually, but then I've like edited it with ChatGPT, for
Yeah.
example, and use it more as like an editing tool. Or to be honest, mine knows me pretty well at this point, knows my tone of voice pretty well. It can pretty much get it spot on, and then I will just refine it.
Mm.
But it's interesting, like what you say about having to go back and refine the words that sound like they are written by ChatGPT to make sure it doesn't sound like you are writing from ChatGPT, because we
Yeah,
want it to be
it's
sounding human.
It's a lot of second guessing that I find frustrating. And I know sometimes I send out an email where I'm using some phrasing. Under that, I will put in italics. Yes, I know I am deliberately choosing this language and this is the hill I will die on, or that kind of, I'll make a bit of a joke about the fact that I'm using a phrase that in some corners might be an AI tell, but this is how I speak and I'm not letting it go. And that in itself is a little adding that humanness to it, which is
I
really
agree.
important.
Adding a little bit of your personality in there at the same time, which
Yeah.
is really nice. And I think now we're in 2026 now, and I don't think AI generated content is going to cut it this year. I think people really are, like what I'm seeing feedback is particularly on LinkedIn, which is a generally writing based platform. I'm seeing so many people like really hating on AI written content and really wanting to see people show up authentically, honestly, themselves, their personality. And that is something that a robot simply can't do. And yes, it can mimic you to a certain degree, but really to add that little human touch, it's going to have to come from you. So what do you think is like the secret, I guess, of like humanizing content, whether that's for your website, for your content on social media, whether it's for your emails? How can we make our content more human?
I think the lack of perfection is a huge part of it. And like I mentioned, I use AI a lot. I use AI for workflows and systems and offer strategies and stuff like that. And I do use it for writing. A command that I am giving more and more is stop polishing my copy into a smooth stone. Like it's actually the bumps in my writing that make it my writing. And so sometimes I've written a piece of like sales copy and ChatGPT has polished it into something that is probably technically perfect, but it's sucked all the life out of it. And so that's a really important part especially if you don't know how to write copy from a technical standpoint, or you're just new to it. You might think this is making my copy better, but it's smoothing out all the humanity. And so one thing it's really important is to know your voice. We talk about that a lot in terms of copywriting, but like how do you say things and how do you use punctuation? Which rules do you break? And how do you like to sound? Because you don't want to, my voice is very much a friend at the bar. Mine is like the cool auntie who knows shit and, is cluing you in. And if you button me up and make me sound too formal, that's not me at all. And so when we're talking about being human, we're talking about leaving in the bumps, leaving in the imperfections, not polishing our writing to the point where it doesn't sound like us anymore. It might sound like a more, in air quotes, professional version, but that's not human. And the other thing I'm seeing definitely, even so far as like videos that have poor lighting and even slightly poorer sound, they are doing better than well-produced video content. And what that is, it's the swing back to like what we want to see is the imperfections. Because when
Mm,
it's too polished and too produced, it puts barriers between us and the content. And so
yeah.
there's we want it to be conversational. We want it to feel intimate, which all copy is, which all marketing is. When I'm looking at your website on my phone, it's just me and you. So speak to me as one single person creates an intimate space, and leaving in some of the bumps of your writing and your production, that is the tell that it was created. Even so far as like I was on a call yesterday and someone was telling me that they had a typo in a coupon link in an email, and when they fixed the typo, sales dropped off. So are actually your friend in a way that they haven't been for many, many years. And so even on LinkedIn, you mentioned, or in emails, I know people who are deliberately leaving in typos and in air
Mm,
quotes mistakes because they're like, yeah, I wrote that and I'm not fixing it because I just fired this off.
of those.
Yeah, me
Definitely.
too. I am absolutely typo blind, and I am in my moment right now that typos are coming into fashion again.
Yeah, I'm all here for a spelling mistake, you know? One, it does show you that it's me typing, but also too, most of my copy, because I write so quickly, does usually have
Yes.
spelling mistakes in. So I'm all here for the typo, all here for the spelling mistakes. Show me what you've got, because I think it really does help. Just like also going back to LinkedIn, just in general, I've noticed that they are really cracking down anyway on AI generated content, and they are prioritizing pushing reach on right now. This is January 2026. Right now, they are prioritizing pushing reach on human written content. And I can tell that with mine. Like, I can see the difference between, like, if I use one that's a bit more AI polished versus one that I've just got all these spelling mistakes going on in. It gets, I had one that had like 20,000 views. I had like a massive spelling mistake in there, and I'm like, well, whatever. Like, it shows you that I am a human being, and that is
Yeah.
how I write. Unfortunately, I'm not the most easy, good at spelling, so that is what it
Yeah,
is.
and I'm a copywriter. I have to get a proofreader in because it is not
Yeah.
my priority skill. But it's just usually those kind of posts as well are things that you care about. So if we're asking like how can we be more human, it's about telling stories because AI tools can't mimic your stories and your experience.
Mm-mm.
They can give you structure, they can make strategic suggestions, all that kind of stuff. But bring your stories, that makes it more human. Sharing typos and bumps, not necessarily following this lot of single line formatting, and really just speaking about things that make you inflamed, like things that you're passionate about, things that you care about. Have a good rant, and a lot of business owners, when they feel like they're blending into the background, they need to double down on what they stand for. And that can take a bit of work, especially if you're new in business. Like, what do I actually care about? What are my values? You mentioned authenticity. Generosity is one of mine. But coming to the realization that you have some hills that you will die on can take some time. But this is the important strategic thought work that we need to do, especially in 2026. We need to
Mm.
have those hills to go, actually, I have an opinion. I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to defend it and I'm going to share it because that's what people respond to.
It is, and it is. People, like, at the end of the day, people buy from people, right? So they
Hmm.
don't want to just see the sales copy of like six different coaches, six different copywriters, all looking exactly the same. It's like, show me what you've got. Tell me your story. Tell me a little bit more about you, because I want to buy into you. I'm not necessarily buying into the end result that you're going to get me. I'm going to buy into what your energy is going to bring into my life, bring into my world. And I think that that's
Yeah.
definitely very true. And obviously, if you're creating video content, that's quite easy to get across. When you're trying to create written content, it can be a little bit more challenging because you've got to tell it in a story format for that to be able to come across. And
Yeah.
something you mentioned earlier around, like, obviously ChatGPT tries to like polish up your content and make it sound more professional. I would be really interested to hear from your perspective as a copywriter, where you stand on that, like, we versus I, us versus like me, when we're
Mm.
talking about a one-man band founder, because I remember being very guilty of this when I first started my business. And I'm a very casual person in conversation. When I meet someone, I'm very casual. I'm not this super professional person, and I don't want to come across like that, because it wouldn't be again, going back to authenticity, it wouldn't be authentic. But I do remember when I first started my business that I was like, let's make this sound bigger than it is, and we and us, and
Yeah.
all of the phrases that made it sound like I'm bigger than I am. What's your take on that?
Well, the first thing I'd like to take a hammer to is this idea of professionalism, because we all have this idea of like what it means to be more, in air quotes, professional. But at the end of the day, being conversational in the way we communicate, that's not unprofessional. Being friendly is not unprofessional. When I'm working with clients, I ask them to imagine, like, what does your best salesperson, even if it's you, what does that person sound like? They're not sleazy, they're not pushy, they're not rude, they're not patronizing. That's sometimes the idea we have about sales. But in actual fact, really good salespeople are friendly, they listen, they have empathy and compassion, and they're looking to provide the right solution for this problem. And so when we think about that, it brings a lot more warmth into the discussion. So being professional means doing your job. It means delivering what you said you're going to deliver, when you're going to deliver, within the scope of what you agreed. That's what being professional is. It has nothing to do with you being conversational and warm and relaxed. So we want to break apart that idea first, which is a big one. Because I talk to a lot of clients about their voice, and they're worried that if they sound in any way unbuttoned, that they will be seen as less professional. And it's absolutely not true. But if we go back to I and we and me and us, you have to be authentic, because there are some real selling points to being a solopreneur. So from, a copywriter's point of view, I would say to my clients, look, if you go with an agency, you're going to be dealing with an account manager who's then going to be dealing with a bunch of juniors. So it becomes a little bit like that game of telephone where messages are being passed down the line. When you work with me, you're getting me. I'm across the brief, I'm across the strategy. You're getting me writing your copy, and I'm taking care of the details and making sure it's delivered. That's a really big selling point to someone. And so we have this idea that we makes us sound bigger and bigger makes us sound better and more professional. But in actual fact, really leaning into the fact that you are the person delivering the results for your clients is a huge selling point. And there's also the moment you have to ask yourself, if someone found out that it's just me, is that actually going to do more damage to the goodwill I've built up, or is it not going to impact it at all? And I just think there's a moment where we all go, really? That you've got we everywhere and it's just you? Who are you trying to pretend to be? And so for that moment alone, I think it's worth just saying, it's just me and I'm awesome and I am all over your work.
I did come to that conclusion very quickly.
We all do it. It's okay. And that's the moment of personal development and growth, of going, hang on, I need to pull down the scaffolding of a false perception, and I'm going to lean into who I am and what I'm here to do, which
Yeah,
serves your business so much more.
for sure. Very good advice. So if I was a copywriter today, or I was running my business and I'm not a copywriter, what is a powerful copywriting technique today that someone can use to show up a little bit more human in their content, whether that is on their website content, their social media content, or in their email marketing?
So when it comes to email marketing, I think when it comes to they're all different things. I think your website, you always want that to be a little more polished, because the website is doing a job. Every piece of copy has a job to do. And so you want to make sure that for your website, for example, it really does reflect who you are as a person. And that could mean really embracing how you sound. It could mean using the kind of language that you love, having the kind of imagery that reflects your personality, because you have to remember that it's not only about connecting with someone and moving them towards making an action. We want to connect on a very personality-based level. Because if we imagine someone like a service provider, I'm about to hire someone, I've got 6 or 7 tabs open of different options, and I'm looking at the websites. Each one communicates the solution that solves my problem. Each one has testimonials, so I know that everyone can do their job. I found out the price range is pretty much the same. It's going to come down to the little hooks. I call them like Velcro hooks of personality, where I go, she has a dog, or she lives in Thailand. I know where, we have that in common. Or she reads the same kind of books as I do. Or just this imagery is really speaking to me. And all of that stuff together can make you the most choosable option. And so don't underestimate across your website adding little points of flair and personality. And you can always get a copywriter on board to help you with structuring the copy so that it's compelling and persuasive and moves people forward. And then in things like emails and social posts, don't shy away from telling stories. I speak to a lot of copywriters and business owners who are like, oh, I don't want to mention, why would anyone care that I drink tea over coffee, or that I have a dog over a cat, or that I am working around my kid's snow day? I'm like, actually, those are the kind of details that act as little Velcro hooks. And you don't have to give more of your life up to the internet than you're comfortable with, but There's a moment, I think, when we're writing a social post or an email or website copy, and we rise up to the and then we pull back. We think, oh, that's too much. I'm not sure about that. That's a bit too much. And I say lean in to those moments, because that will be the moment. I had lots of conversations with people who go, that little thing that you mentioned, that was the thing that hooked me in.
Agree. I think it's really important sometimes to overshare a little bit, rather than hold back, particularly if you are the brand. Like we said earlier, people buy into people, and the more that that person that you want to buy from you can relate to you, the easier it is for you to convert them. You can sometimes say sometimes less is more, right? You could literally just be like, I like green tea over coffee. Oh, me too. Okay, cool. Like, you don't need to like sell that or explain it. It's just like a connection point at the end of the day. There's a reason for somebody then to drop into your DMs and start that conversation. There's a reason for you to
Exactly.
start that conversation with somebody else, because it doesn't feel salesy. And I think some of the best copy is ones that subtly sell to you. And that's actually something that I personally try and incorporate in my own content when I'm trying to create content for some of my programs, for coaching clients and things like that. I don't agree with like hard sales over copy or in DMs or anything that doesn't personally resonate with me. So everything I'm trying to do is more of a like conversational, building relationships with people, getting you to know the truth core of who I am so that you can make informed decisions on whether you want to buy from me or not.
And that's, more touch points. I need to
Exactly.
connect with you across multiple platforms in
Exactly.
multiple conversations, and it becomes more immersive. And I think that that's the humanness, is letting people get to know you. And I know some people listening will be like, oh my God, no, I
Well,
don't
for
want to,
sure.
I'm protective of my privacy. And there is a very clear line. You do not have to give up information. You can still protect your privacy. But when you let people get to know you across your marketing and what you stand for and what you're like, that means sharing what makes you laugh and sharing what makes you cross and what your morning routine is like. That is how we get to that immersive experience that you're talking about, Sophie. And that's how I do it too.
Definitely. I think though, going back to what you're saying around like, oh, feeling scared about having to show your whole life, I don't show, nobody knows anything about me online that is happening in my day right now, like nothing. So it's like I'm sharing information that is maybe over 6 months old. Like when I'm sharing a story, probably it hasn't happened in my current reality. It's probably something that's happened a while ago, and I'm sharing that now. So I think there's ways to go about protecting your privacy. Like, I'm not telling you where I am. I'm not telling you what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going around documenting my day, but I am telling you significant experiences that have happened in my world at some point. And it could have been last week, but it's probably not going to be telling you like a direct conversation that I had with a friend on the island at so and so's
Yeah.
event. It's going to be like a generalized subject. I'm sharing parts of that with you, not fully. So I think you are able to really protect that. Like, there's no photos that exist of me from this whole year so far, in all honesty, on the internet. It's everything that I'm doing is like from past. So I think there
But
are
I know that
definitely ways
people who
you can do
listen
it.
to you and follow you will understand what your values are and what you're passionate about and how you work and what it's going to be like to work with you and how you sound. Those are the kind of things we want to know when we invest
Mm.
in a solution or a service. It's less so with like products that we just buy. But if you're in the business of like serving people, then as you said earlier, you're not just buying into the solution, you're buying into the person.
I actually had a conversation about this on my LinkedIn the other day around, I put out a post about how do we define ourselves in like 3 words in terms of like, oh, we're calling ourselves online business coach. I'm so much more than an online business coach. And it's really difficult to like summarize ourselves into this little title. So when you are able to share all of the other colors and things that are happening in your world, that is what then reflects the depth of the work that you do, rather than just this small online business coach title, which actually is just like a tiny part of the business that I run, to be
Yes.
honest.
I love that. I love that. And so that's, put it all together, stir it around. That's how we're more human compared to like AI content. And it's just going back to conversations with real people, trying to solve their problems and just showing up. But it's also paying attention to what makes us choosable for the right people. And it's not always being the best or the most experienced. We make choices about who we give our money to based on lots of different things. And it's not just price or availability or the solution. And so I love that, showing all the colors. That's how we make ourselves choosable to the right people.
That is exactly how we're going to humanize our content. So, anybody that is listening, wanting to humanize their content, think about how you can show all of the different sides of you and put that into words that really reflect your values and the way that you would show up in person. Because ultimately, if you can show up online in the way that you show up in person, that is the core to being human online and showing up in your most authentic way. So, thank you so much for sharing all of that and teaching us how to humanize our content. You have obviously built a really amazing career with your copywriting business over the years. Love to know what level of freedom that has been able to bring you in your life and what freedom actually looks like and means to you.
The freedom, we sort of said earlier, the fact that my kids had a snow day and I didn't have to ask anyone's permission to have a snow day as well. I got to organize my own schedule. Freedom has looked like moving between Australia and the US and then across the country in the US. And it being, from a business point of view, as simple as closing my laptop and opening it up somewhere else. And freedom also means, like, yeah, running your own business is a lot of work. And I've worked harder for myself than I ever worked for anyone else. But the freedom to make the choices I need to make for me and my family without compromising my ambition, that for me is freedom. Like, not having to compromise on where I want my life to go and where I want my career to go, being also to develop my sense of self along that journey. That's what the copywriting has given me, and that's the freedom.
Definition of freedom. And I love that you've been able to find that for yourself by starting your own copywriting business. So thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all of your wisdom around humanizing content through your copy. If anyone wants to connect with you, how can they find you?
My business is called Copyright Matters. And so my website is copyrightmatters.com. And I'm writing copy for clients, I'm coaching copywriters. And if you look for Belinda Weaver, you'll see my big ginger face on social media. I would love to get some DMs, chat to me about like what resonated. I'm here for it.
Thank you so much to Belinda for sharing her knowledge on copywriting and how to humanize our content on our website, in our email marketing, and on our social media. I hope today's episode gave you some little nuggets of information or inspiration on how you can humanize your content and not make it feel so robotic and like it is written by AI. So Belinda's story is a really powerful reminder that you don't have to have $1 million business to have a freedom-filled business. If Belinda's journey into copywriting has inspired you today and you're thinking, maybe I could do something like this too, then make sure you check out the free masterclass, Find Your Freedom Business Model. It is designed to help you figure out how to start a business online that actually works for you, your lifestyle, your skill sets. As we heard in Belinda's story earlier on, she actually learned a whole new skill set to become a copywriter. But if you've got skills hidden in your current talent database, you can use those to create yourself an online business. And the Find Your Freedom Business Model Masterclass is going to help you identify what those skills are and turn them into a tangible business model that can help make you money online. Whether that is copywriting or another creative path, I'll walk you through how to get started. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you click subscribe and like this episode. It means the world to me to get your support. And all of the links you need are going to be in the show notes. I'll see you next time.